Hello and welcome to episode 50. That's a round number. 50. 50.
Holy smokes. How did that happen?
I don't know.
How many of them did I do?
Well, there were a couple that were weekend at Bernie's because you were like so drunk that you were just kind of present. So, but yeah, I think you were there for all of them. It's crazy.
That's kind of amazing. 50, that's sort of shocking, isn't it?
Well, and actually, we've done 51, but the first time that we interviewed Rex Richardson, it turned out that the connection was so horrendous that luckily we're really good friends with Rex. So I called him, was like, "Hey man," he was like, "What do you want, Hitz?"
What do you want, Hitz? What's the problem?
There was a problem with your recording.
What do you mean?
There was like a problem with the voice that you were making.
I don't care what you cats are saying.
We have to record the tune. It's because of the tone of your.
I don't dig what you're saying. You cats are a mess, man.
And actually, it's 52 because we had Harry Waters.
Oh, that's right. Episode. Which we're still gonna release at some point as a bonus episode. We have to, because he's eating a sandwich. His kids are talking to him. He's like talking to security at Fort Myer. He's talking to the person who's pressing uniforms. This is all while being interviewed. So
he was getting a mani-pedi.
And he was leading a yoga class.
Fish that eats the skin off your feet. He was doing that kind. That's like he's like serious about it.
Yeah. So welcome to episode 52 of the Brass Junkies. Well, it's 50 in terms of the ones that are released. So what a
exactly. So but we should. That's illustrious. That's something. That's like nearly 2 years of effort. Well,
we are to be celebrated.
Yes.
So
hey. Congratulations, Andrew Hitz.
Here's to Lance LaDuke and here's to me. All right. So all right, I guess we're done. Thank you for listening to episode 50. We just wanted to point out that that for once in a row that Lance and I have follow through.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
See?
Yeah.
Told you.
There you go. And now I feel justified every time I yell at my college kids. So this episode, well, first let's this is a pretty cool episode. This is a very funny episode. Right, but let's talk about how people can help us first.
Well, you people are wonderful, and you have made this a very, very enjoyable and interesting couple of years. And the thing that shocks me is that we have had a heck of a good time, and we have met a lot of cool people, and we've actually accidentally conveyed some, I think, important information. So thank you to everyone who has supported and listened to all of the episodes. And if you would like to help us in more specific ways, there are 3 things that you can do for us. None of them will require a great deal of effort. All 3 of them could be completed in half an hour or less. You can go to iTunes and give us a review and rate the show. That allows other folks to find the show more easily. You can go to Patreon, patreon.com, and you can contribute financially to the show, $1 an episode, $5 an episode, whatever you feel like. And then the third thing you can do is just to continue to spread the word. I keep running into people who say, "Oh, if my teacher told me about it, or the friend of mine told me I got to check this show out." And I've started out by listening to the ones that, I'm a trombone player, and I listen to the trombone episodes, and then I started listening to the other ones. And thanks for doing it. So thank you for doing that. Keep sharing. Keep telling other people about it, and we look forward to many, many more episodes. So thank you for listening, and please help us spread the word.
We have been downloaded in over 60 countries.
Whoa, that's pretty. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Right? Like Madagascar.
Madagascar?
More than once. Iran. Brazil, Qatar, New Zealand, India. A bunch of times in India, a bunch of times in Denmark, 30 times in Bermuda, United Arab Emirates, Israel, Ecuador, South Africa. Pretty cool.
What about Canada?
We have never been downloaded in Canada.
That's because of the ends. Super Yens.
Actually, they're the second most. So
Oh,
the top 5, since you're all dying to know, is the United States, Canada, the UK, Germany, and the Netherlands.
There you go.
Oh.
Higher than Madagascar, the Netherlands was?
Yeah, but just ekes it out. Yes, just ekes it out.
Madagascar, that's kind of cool.
Right?
Hey, our show was downloaded in Madagascar. They thought they were downloading a show about, I don't know, plumbing, but they found out since that.
So did half of the downloads in the United States.
Dang it, I got a leaky faucet and all I get is these dingbats talking about some trumpet player. That ain't right.
So let's tell these beautiful people about this episode. So this episode features Alex Lapins, who is the tuba euphonium professor at the University of Tennessee. Go Gators! But we have a very special guest on this episode whose name is Tony Tortora. And why don't you tell these people about Tony? Because he's kind of my hero.
Tony is a special, special human. Tony he's a huge Brass Junkies fan.
He lives in Madagascar.
Commutes to Tennessee to study with Alex. He is a senior music education major at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. And he was listening to the episode where we interviewed
Joey Tartell.
And in that episode, I think it was you who mentioned, we got to talking about the Vuvuzela, and James Gourlay was playing the Vuvuzela at the Pirates game and almost got thrown out and banned permanently from PNC Park. And I was there. And I think Andrew said, if anybody out there, we had also been talking about blind auditions. And Andrew said, if anybody plays a blind audition on a Vuvuzela, we'll put you on the show. And so one day we got an email from Tony that
This is like a week and a half after the episode aired, too.
Yeah.
I mean, podcasts are like, as long as you keep paying the hosting fee, they're, which we're going to talk about in a second. Parker Mouthpieces helps us out with. Did you see what I did there? You like that? They're evergreen content. So, it could be 2 years later that you hear it. This kid is like 10 days later, he emails.
Right on top of it. Well, and actually the whole story is unpacked on the episode. But suffice to say, he's our new hero, because the email message was challenge accepted. And I'll let the rest of the story unfold when we talk to Tony. And we did something. This is really special to me. When this thought popped into my head, I was very, very proud because, once again, I don't want to spoil it. You're going to understand the surprise in Tony's voice.
Tony played a trick on Alex. We played a trick on Tony. It got very meta. Yeah, it was good.
Afraid we were going to call his mom next.
Yeah, pretty much. So, with a little bit of ado, more ado, we've got to thank Parker Mouthpieces for providing our hosting. Parker Mouthpieces offers fine, customizable component mouthpieces for horn, trombone, euphonium, and tuba, including the Andrew Hitz Artist Model Tuba mouthpiece and the Lance LaDuke Model euphonium mouthpiece. Find out more at parkermouthpieces.com or follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And without further ado, episode 50 of the Brass Junkies, featuring Alex Lapins of the University of Tennessee and his student, Tony Tortora. And today we have a special treat on the podcast. Lance, are you excited?
I have been giddy all week waiting for this.
We're recording this the week like five days after the election, but all we've been thinking about all week is this. So
actually, this has been the best version.
Yeah, so we've got Alex Lapins on the line from the University of Tennessee. He's the tuba euphonium professor there. How are you, Alex?
I'm doing great. Go Big Orange, beat Kentucky.
I don't even know if you know this. We should talk this out like on air. But I was born and raised a Florida Gator fan. So I don't in basketball I certainly root for you against Kentucky, but the entire SEC East this year is basically a dumpster fire. So someone has to win, but But yeah, so I can't echo your Go Tennessee sentiments. Although you did beat us this year for the first time since like 1977 or something like that. I might be wrong on the date, but anyway.
I'm a Michigan State alum, man. Let's don't talk about bad football seasons.
Yeah, Michigan State's doing bad. Tennessee, I think, is the best team in the SEC East, and they're not that good. Georgia's awful. Florida's awful. Kentucky is Kentucky.
Yeah,
I'll
take this moment now not to point out that I'm a third generation Michigan student. So I'll not throw that out there now.
Well, it was good talking to you, man. Sorry.
I know.
This is great. Wait, hold on. I bet we all hate Notre Dame.
When?
Oh God, yes. Who doesn't?
See that?
No.
Notre Dame has been bringing people together for years and years and years, and they lost to like the Coast Guard Academy or something last week, which was great.
That was Michigan State's other win this year.
Other. That's always a good way to start. So, Alex has been on our list of people to talk to, but there is a specific reason why he got moved up to today, and that is because during the Joey Tartell episode, which was episode 44. We made an offer. This is one of those, like, when you talk into a microphone, you have to be careful what you say, because someone by the name of Tony will end up taking you up on it. And so we said that if anybody, we were talking about vuvuzelas and Joey playing, and we said that if anybody were to record a screened audition on a vuvuzela at the college level, that we would have them on the podcast. And sure enough, Lance and I get this email that's like, dudes,
challenge accepted.
Yeah, challenge accepted, right, was the subject. And he said, and this was a student of Alex's, which I think he's both proud of and embarrassed by. His name is Tony Tortora, who is a senior music ed major. And he said, he basically said, I'm looking forward to being on your show. And then he gave us a link of an audition where he played, I think he played Prokofiev 5, and then he played, I think it was Meistersinger, and then Mahler 1 came up, and he, as gently as possible, put his tuba down. He had a collapsible vuvuzela in his bell that he took out, and he then proceeded. We will link to this in the show notes because it's awesome. And so, can you tell us what was going through your mind when this kid was doing this on the other side of the screen?
Right. Well, let me paint the picture for you here. It wasn't just him and me, or me and my studio. This was the final round of mock auditions that the entire brass area was doing. So each studio had mock auditions on their own. So this is in the band room at the University of Tennessee. It's the winners from the previous round. Tony's a great player. Of course, he was in our finals. So it's all the brass studios, about 78 brass students in the band room, and each one of the faculty members taking really studious notes and really trying to give them feedback. And so you got like 80 people in this giant band room. We're trying to get 13 mock auditions done in just over an hour, so we're really trying to stay on task. And there's like nothing light about the mood. We're all like intense and really trying to make something new and special happen and really take care of it. And Tony sounds great. So his first couple excerpts have that beautiful sound and musicianship he's got. And then it just comes in and I don't know. I thought his tuba was broke. He must be getting a fantastic sound on the vuvuzela, because I really thought it was a tuba that was just terribly, terribly wrong. And I'm looking over at my colleagues, and I'm seeing, I got a couple of great colleagues, like Kathy Leach is our trumpet professor. She's president of ITG. She's like the person in charge of trumpets. And she's looking at me like, what the hell is going on? And
this is awesome.
So it was not like the little thing where the guy played naked for Rex Martin, which was a really terrific anecdote. No, this was an extremely public event.
Yeah.
And
in the video, the camera guy pans over, and you can see everybody in the room facing the other way. You can see the entire crowd.
Yeah, very quickly. Yeah, it's he clearly said, "Be sure to get the crowd first." Yeah, and that was. So I'm glad that we are.
Was it you then that said, "Fix whatever's wrong and start again"? Was that you?
Yeah. Yeah, that was me just trying to move things along. I just figured a valve was stuck or something like that, but I just don't think the Vuvuzela was on anybody's radar that day.
So, Lance, how do you feel that you and I are like undermining like legitimate attempts at educating children?
I had this. It was this 1-2 punch because I got the email. I saw the subject line. I didn't understand it. I read the email. I cracked up. I clicked on the YouTube thing. I cracked up, and then I was like, "Oh my God, who's his teacher?" I couldn't remember. I was like, "Oh, we've destroyed somebody." And then I pulled it. I was like, "Oh, okay, we're in good shape."
All
so
right,
then
we're fine.
I reached out to.
Oh,
Alex
it's just Alex.
See, that explains it because you didn't know at that point.
No, I honestly had no idea what was going wrong. I just knew that something was terribly, terribly wrong.
So now my wonderful little brain said, "Oh well, we're going to have this kid on for sure." And it just happened that it was right before. 4 or 5 days before we were getting ready to record anyway. So this is perfect. And then the brilliant turn of events, which was, we should have his teacher on first. And not because once I found out that he didn't tell you and you hadn't talked to him about it, I thought, well, now we have an opportunity here. And so Alex has graciously agreed to, we're going to surprise Tony. We're going to have him as a guest on the Brass Junkies here in just a few minutes, and he does not know that Alex is on the line. And so we're going to have Alex be quiet for a while, and we're going to just talk to Tony about what he did, and did he get any kind of reaction? Well, you hear how it unfolds, and then it will become apparent that his teacher is also on the line. So this promises to be entertaining, if to no one else, then at least the three of us.
Yeah.
We'll see how incredibly uncomfortable this can be.
That's right.
Let's go for it.
Yeah, that's what I've shared this many times on the podcast, that when I first was, got into show business, when I was on the mic with Boston Brass, like if I told a joke or tried to be funny and it didn't go over well, or then I was just not even trying to be funny, I was just stumbling on my words and it was just awkward, that I used to get uncomfortable. And then I met Lance, and then that's when Lance was like, "Oh no, that's the best part."
That's when it gets real.
And that's when, so then I would sometimes like a crowd would be turning on me because I was making too much fun of Jeff, which is not possible, but they thought it was, and then I just double down on that. It's like,
right.
Yeah, you just double down. So this
like
is
thrill seekers. Some people jump out of planes. Some people do, parkour. We just bravely say dumb things on microphones.
Yeah, they're
and the whole world appreciates it.
The whole world is like, you and like three buddies, but I appreciate it. So yeah. All right. So the only other announcement that we have to make is that we are officially ending the offer of anyone who plays a vuvuzela in a screen audition.
That's true. Yeah.
Tony is it. Like, so this is even if that happens before this airs, like, you're out of luck. So we got
Stay tuned. You never know what other stupid thing we ask you to do, but for this one, the box is checked off.
And the best part is that we batch these and we're old, so like I didn't even really remember it. So he explained it in the email, and he was like, "Challenge accepted." I was like, "What challenge?" Like, and then I'm reading, I'm like, "Oh yeah, I guess that ringing." And then I was like, "Oh geez," and then I watched it, and I was doing fist pumps. I was so excited. Like, I was like, "This is the best thing ever."
I showed it to my tuba ensemble. I showed it to my music business class. This kid's famous up here in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I showed it to my college kids too. So yep, that's it's good stuff. Good stuff. All right. So we are now going to add Tony to the call, and Alex is going to be silent. So
you got it.
All right, here we go.
I'm so happy. I'm so happy. I'm really happy.
Hello.
Hello,
Tony.
Is this Tony?
Hey, this is Tony.
Tony, thank you so much for being on the Brass Junkies. How are you doing today?
Yeah. Oh, I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Fantastic.
So my first question is, what the hell's wrong with you?
That's a fair question.
I know it is.
So you're a
Okay.
music education senior at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, correct?
That's right.
And where are you from originally?
Just south of Knoxville in Tennessee and from Chattanooga.
Gotcha. And you hope to be a high school band director, or what's your plan?
Well, not necessarily a high school band director. That's actually one of the things I'm trying to figure out right now as I get more into the music ed major, is that, like, do I want to go to grad school immediately after this, or do I want to pursue some kind of teaching career, or maybe try to play more, or just trying to figure that out right now. So not totally sure.
Gotcha.
I'm music ed as a major because to me, it seems like later on it will pay the most back to me in terms of, like, if I really get in a position where I need to teach, I should be able to, but at the same time, I'll be able to play and do anything else that I want, you know?
Well, that's great. I have a music ed degree as well, and I don't regret doing that for a minute. So before you came on, we sort of set things up about what it was that you did, but can you just describe, tell us how it is that you are on our episode today?
Right. I don't think I'm like most of the other guests you guys have on here, but I'm super thankful that you guys would have me anyway. So the way I did it was I was listening to your guys' episode with Joey Tartell like a week and a half ago, maybe more. And in that episode, you were talking about how James Gurley got kicked out of a Pirates game with a vuvuzela and someone taking a blind audition naked. Just all this ridiculous stuff.
What do you mean? We're always serious.
It's very, very serious.
Oh, yeah.
I don't appreciate
You're right.
your characterization of our educational podcast.
So then, to make it even more professional, you issued a challenge to all students that were listening to you. And you said that if you had a placement audition coming up in your school and you played one of your excerpts on a vuvuzela and you recorded it, that you just have them on the show. Like, it's that easy. So I was listening and I was like, that's it. This is my moment in life to do this.
This is my moment in life.
Yeah. It was perfect timing because we're doing a brass wide mock audition competition, and I made it past the first round. So then I got to play for all the faculty and all the brass students at school. And I just handed my phone. I handed my phone to the proctor, and he was kind of like, "Oh, sure." And I was like, "Listen, dude, I need you to video the crowd too, like, and the faculty sitting out there." And he was like, "Okay, whatever, dude." So then I just pulled the collapsible vuvuzela out of the bell of my tuba, and I played Die Meistersinger, and then I played Prokofiev 5, and then I played Mahler 1 on the vuvuzela. And I only got like 8 bars in before they cut me off, but I think it sounded pretty good, honestly.
Yeah,
There's a video of it, and that one has that excerpt has such a small range that you can really, like, actually pull it off with the vuvuzela.
Yeah, it was impressive.
Turns out.
Well, and I like that
Everybody,
you did it as though it was like a slide instrument. Like, you didn't do it with your face. You used it like it was a trombone of sorts. That was a nice technique there.
yeah, it worked pretty good. Yeah.
Is that music ed training? Well, and actually, I was looking at your YouTube channel. You've got the right way to oil your valves and how to circular breathe and and then there's you in a parking garage, it looks like.
Oh yeah, that's a promo for my recital, which is coming up.
Nice.
So what kind of reaction?
Thanks for checking out my YouTube channel.
Oh, of course. Well, and the link to the video that you made for us is in the show notes here. So what kind of, I mean, you hear a voice telling you that there was something wrong with the instrument. What was going on there? So was that one of the professors, your teacher? Or
yeah, that was actually my my applied lessons teacher, Alex Lapins.
Gotcha.
And I just think he wanted whatever was happening to stop. A lot of people thought that
he wanted whatever was happening to stop.
I've been in so many performances where the audience thought that very thing.
Just stop. Please, just stop.
I don't know what I need to happen, but it's different than what is happening. That's all.
Exactly. So that's where it was at. So then I ended up, everybody thought that, like, I had went to dump some water and just, like, put only half of my slide back in, or maybe they just thought that I, like, suck at Mahler 1, like, just and so bad at that one on C tuba.
So do your friends know that you did? I mean, who knew that this?
I didn't tell. I tried so hard because I like to talk. You know, I like to tell people what I'm doing. But as soon as I, like, made up my mind that I was going to do it, I told my roommate, who's a guitar player, and I didn't tell anyone else until it was over. And then everyone was like, dude, what did you do? And I was like, I was like, it was kind of a bit. That's the way I described it. Because I didn't want to tell them, like, Andrew Hitz and LaDuke want to talk to me now. Because I did that. Because you guys, I hadn't sent it yet, and I wasn't sure if you guys were serious.
So how did your teacher react?
Well, he didn't say anything at all. No faculty brought up anything to me. So I really think they just thought I was, like, really, really bad at that one.
Are you going to talk to him about it?
Well, I know that he knows what happened because a couple days later in studio class, we were having a scale wars, and I played a scale, and then he was like, yep, the only way it would have sounded better if it was on a vuvuzela. And everyone was kind of like, oh, what?
Well, what are you going to tell him?
Well, I know he's a fan of the podcast. Like, ironically, like, the day I did that, he,
what
like...
the hell is that supposed to mean, ironically?
He shared...
Ironically, you're shocked that he likes our show?
No, he shared the very episode I'm talking about with Joey Tartell on Facebook, and was like, all students, like, you need to check these guys out, blah, blah. And I was like, I'm, like, 5 steps ahead of you, Dr. Lapins.
well, Tony, this is Dr. Lapins, and the fact of the matter is, that's right. I'm here, and I thought Joey Tartell, someone I really looked up to, great episode. I had no idea I was sort of selling into the sabotage. It was one of your better Mahler ones, but I just thought maybe I needed to go over how to oil your valves or something. It was terribly wrong.
That, you know what that sound was? That sound was him being 5 steps ahead of you, Dr. Lapins.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was a thing of beauty, Tony. And the fact of the matter is, before we got you on the call, they were telling me that this is sort of going viral, at least in our little microscopic brass community. So you've managed to make UT famous in a little teeny tiny way. And I just wanted to be on this phone call to thank you for painting us in such a
Well, we're all here
light.
now. That's great.
We're all here now. Yeah. No, we've all been here all along. You just didn't know. And by the way, the whole audience knew the entire time we were talking to you that he was there as well. So yeah, we started the episode, talked to him for 10 minutes, and then he just shut up while we talked to you. So actually, everyone knew except for you.
How's your day going now?
That's great. I expect nothing less from a conversation like this.
Hey,
thanks for not saying anything too embarrassing.
If you ask to be on a podcast with a couple of jackasses and you're then shocked or upset that they acted like jackasses, then yeah, you need a mirror, basically.
Wouldn't it have been awesome if he hated Alex and went off on a rant?
That would have been funny.
Oh man,
dude, that would
I
have
was
been...
a little worried about that because I'm still pretty new at UT, so you never know what they really think about you.
Well,
I'm glad you're clear of that.
He'd have to really not like you to say that on the air, though. Yeah, it's like, well,
point.
Especially in like the first little bit. Wow.
Yeah, he's like,
nice.
He only hits me every other lesson.
Yeah.
It's not that bad.
And I always deserve it. At least that's what he says. So, all right, Tony. So, do you have any parting words of wisdom for your teacher since you're 5 steps ahead of him?
I can't wait to play for you tomorrow at my recital.
I'm looking forward to it.
It's gonna be awesome.
I'm thinking maybe Strauss first horn concerto on Vuvuzela could be groundbreaking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. All right, Tony.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Your video
thank you.
is listed on our pod. I've showed it to my business class, my Tuba Euphonium ensemble.
I've shown it to my kids
everybody
too.
that I can. So hopefully we'll get you some.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, man. Well,
That's
thank
great.
you very much,
it's
Tony.
Very nice to meet you both.
Yeah, and good luck on your
You know
recital.
what we should do? We should try and set up a live episode from UT Knoxville.
Hey, that's a fantastic idea. We got a lot of stuff going on here.
All right. Well, once we get offline, let's figure out a way to sometime in the not too distant future to come down there and do one of these live.
Sounds good.
Let's do it.
All right,
And then
Tony.
you could be the house band, Tony. We'll just cut away.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Play show tunes on the Vuvuzela.
You could play the dados that we used for the intro and the outro. You could figure that out, arrange it for 2 vuvuzelas or something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's potential here. Fernando will say absolutely rearrange it. Yeah, he'll
Totally.
rearrange it, arrange it, rearrange it, whatever works. So, all right,
Well,
Tony.
And Tony is actually a really fantastic jazz musician. So we can get a whole house band going. It'll sound fantastic, and it'll be ridiculous.
There
That
you
would be
go.
great. Actually, we'll talk to Jupiter too. Maybe they'll bring us down, Andrew, and then we could have a good time.
Oh yeah,
That could work.
that's cool.
Fantastic.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me. I do just want to say hi to my mom while I'm on here. This is a great platform to say hi to my mom.
What's
Hey,
your
Mom.
mom's name?
Chrissy, but I call her Mom.
What?
Chrissy. Shocker. It's weird. Music
she's
ed, you say, huh?
She's actually she's on
Yeah.
the line. She's on the line too, Tony.
Oh, no way.
Anybody else you want to say hi to?
All my friends at UT, especially
We
the
have
TBJ50
tons of
studio.
There you go.
Yep.
Oh, this is good stuff. All right, Tony, we'll kick some butt on your recital tomorrow, and
practice.
thanks for and go practice.
Mm-hmm.
All right, man.
I'll talk to you guys
All
later.
right, take care. Bye.
Bye.
Tony.
Ah,
That
Oh,
did not disappoint.
that was great.
Oh,
That was awesome. All right.
Yeah.
There we
Yeah,
go.
that guy rebounds from anything. He's a cool cat.
That's awesome.
Does
So,
he play? I'm looking at the video, the YouTube channel. Is he a bass player as well?
Yeah. His primary instrument is tuba, but he is a really excellent bass player. Plays bass in the orchestra. He's tuba player in our top band, but he also plays bass in the band whenever they need one. And he's part of our really, really fantastic jazz program at UT, and he's just bursting with talent.
that's great.
Well, that
Good
was really
stuff.
fun. Well, let's turn the conversation another direction, because while we have you, we have a great fan and supporter, a guy named Russell Edders, he was one of our first Patreon patrons, and Russell sent an email right about the same time that we got the email from Tony, and he's got two sons who are both brass players and are thinking about going into music, and he wondered if we could spend some time talking about what it takes to get into a university as a brass player, and what sort of preparation goes in, and what do college teachers look for in auditions. And we thought you would be a perfect person to help us unpack that. So you up for that kind of conversation?
Yeah. I think it's a great topic. I've taught at 4 different universities for about 12 years, and every school is different, every teacher is different. But I'd be really happy to point out some of the general stuff.
Well, why don't you start with telling us where you have taught and how the road that brought you to UT Knoxville?
Sure. The really short version is that when I was a doctoral student at Indiana, I happened to be the person that was there ready to take over Indiana State University when my very good friend Brian Kaiser got his full-time gig at Youngstown State.
BK.
And at Indiana State, they had an adjunct position, and I think it's full-time now. I think the guy that took over after me, Glenn Dimmick, who's brilliant, has really built that into something a lot more permanent than it had been before. But at ISU, there was this sort of line of doctoral students from IU that would come in based on Dan Parentoni's recommendation and being basically qualified as players and teachers, and would teach adjunct a couple days a week. And that basically I was the right person at the right time to get that part-time adjunct gig. And a couple years after that, I had moved to Indianapolis. I was freelancing and doing a lot of teaching. And Tony Niffen, who is a dear friend and one of my mentors, one of my teachers, because his wife was delivering some children into their family, he was moving away from teaching at the University of Indianapolis, and he recommended me for the gig. And so basically for a few years, I was playing in some orchestras, doing a lot of recording sessions, and teaching adjunct at these 2 universities, and playing in a few gigging quintets. So it was, by the time I was in my late 20s, I was kind of doing a little bit of everything, and it was time to maybe focus and get into a situation that was a little bit more permanent, a little more stable. So I took a long look at everything I was doing, and I decided that I found the most value in teaching. So I started really in earnest pursuing a full-time teaching position. And it just so happened that the gig at Northern Arizona University, Go Lumberjacks, opened up, and it wound up that I was the right guy for that job at the time. And I went out there and had 6 amazing years, and actually was thinking that I was going to be a permanent thing because Flagstaff is an amazing place to live. And then, as I'm sure everybody knows, Kelly Thomas had managed to move from the empire that he had built at University of Arizona, and managed to bring his wife and his family back home to Tennessee, where she was from, lived on the family farm, and he was building another empire here, and then we lost him, and I'm not going to dwell on that too much because it's not the easiest thing in the world to talk about, but
of course.
We lost him, and it was a few weeks after that, and Kelly Thomas grew up in Flagstaff, where I was living, and so it was just a few days after I had gone to the memorial service there in Flag, where his family was, and a lot of his alumni from U of A. That was quite a thing. And I got a phone call from Dr. Alex Van Duren, trombone teacher at UT, saying, this is just a god-awful thing, but we need someone to come in and teach next year. And they had iTech on deck, the International Tuba Euphonium Conference, and they had this studio that was dealing with some really, really, really rough and raw stuff. And so they were looking, it was a 1-year position at UT, and they were looking for someone who maybe wasn't a kid, who wasn't, a 23-year-old doctoral student to come in and sort of keep things steady and productive and positive and take care of things for the year. So after some soul searching and talking to my wife and talking to my boss at NAU, who gave me the year off, came out here to UT, and we made it through that year. And as it turned out, UT and I were a pretty good fit, and they hired me to stay on in the tenure track line. And that's, I think I said that was going to be the short version, but that wasn't very short. But,
well, it's an important version.
So yeah, that's how I got here.
Well, it's a perfect version because it also, as you said, you've been in 4 different university settings, so you can sort of speak to brass faculties at a variety of schools, different sizes, different sorts of schools, and so this will be a perfect fit for these kind of questions.
Mm-hmm.
So you have how many folks are in your studio right now?
Right now, there are 14 music majors, including 3 grad students, and there are 3 non-majors taking elective lessons and participating in the Tuba Euphonium Ensemble.
And we're recording in early November, and so what does the recruiting season look like for you?
Well, recruiting was actually a really big thing for me, especially at Northern Arizona, because when I got to NAU, I was recruiting directly against Kelly, who got every euphonium player, and against a guy, I don't know if you've heard of him, Sam Palafian.
Not ringing a bell.
Dan who?
I don't know. He was in the Canadian Brass, I think. And
Sam Palafian.
Palafian, yeah. Who got every tuba player in the area. And so basically, I found myself, just because Arizona is a massive state, but it doesn't have a huge population, I was constantly recruiting. And so what I do is I go into as many high schools as I possibly can and get face-to-face with band directors and their students. I show off my tuba playing. If I can run a sectional, that's great. But basically just making sure that every music teacher and every music student in our recruiting area is aware of who I am and that I'm a resource and that I'm okay at making music on the instrument. And so there's a lot of high school visits. On another level, I've got a YouTube site that I'm constantly building, but it's got performances, it's got some teaching stuff. So I know that a lot of millennials, basically the way they see the world is through YouTube. I know that's true for Tony. So I just try to be where they're looking. And on top of that, I go out and give recital tours with the various quintets. And so basically recruiting for me is kind of a nonstop train. It's not really on any big schedule, and you're always recruiting at least a year or 2 in advance. I'm definitely interested right now in November in graduating seniors in East Tennessee, but I'm also really interested in people that are graduating 1 or 2 years down the road. And I'm really interested in engaging band directors and really having them think of UT as a place where they want to send their ambitious students. So, recruiting is kind of a major part of my life, and it never really goes away.
So you are becoming aware of students as young as, say, sophomores, if I'm understanding you correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you try to engage everyone in every band you visit. So freshman through senior, if they're talented, that's great. But if they're motivated, that is by far more interesting to me than talent.
And how's a student?
Anyone? Sorry.
How does a student demonstrate that?
Well, you can kind of see it whether they light up when you play a tuba solo for them, or whether they ask you questions about how to practice or what to practice or where to find a teacher. It's the students that are actively trying to get better, whether they're at that moment ready to get into the New York Philharmonic or at that moment they're struggling to get into the community band. It's the ones that are simply motivated to improve and to share their joy of music. That it's pretty darn obvious. Whether it's in an email from a student who just found me on the web, or whether it's someone I'm meeting when I visit a band, you can see that enthusiasm, you can see that engagement. And I would just say that for me, anyway, I am exponentially more interested in motivation than I am in current playing ability.
Someone who's motivated to get better is that's another way to say that is that they're teachable. And that they're looking for, that they're always looking for ways to get better, and that they actively understand that other people know things that they don't, and that they're eager for those to be shared with them. And I think all three of us can agree that having a kid who's teachable is by far the most important thing. Because if they're not, then you can't pay me enough money to spend an hour alone with them in a room. If they're not teachable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I had, I won't tell you which school or what person, but one of my college professors, we were talking about a really successful alumni of his, and it was someone I admired, and I said, what was it like teaching this person? And this professor, who is, I'm going to leave nameless, said, well, how do you teach someone who already knows everything?
Oof.
And he didn't mean that the student actually knew everything, but it can be tough when a student is not receptive to any sort of input or perspective. Mm-hmm. And so again, that's what you're hoping for. You're hoping that a college education is a growth period and an engagement period, and it's a give and take between student and teacher. And as long as you can have a productive, fluid conversation, then you're going to get some great stuff out of it. But if you're rejecting any sort of perspective changes, then why are you there?
So Jeff Kernow, who of course plays trumpet with the Philadelphia Orchestra now and was in the Empire Brass back in the heyday, he's a brilliant cartoonist. And just the other day, at this point it will have been weeks ago, but just the other day, he had a 3-panel cartoon, and one there's like a little kid holding a trumpet, and then there's an adult who's screaming some high notes, and there's some music written above it, and it goes up to like a high M sharp or something above the staff. And then the second one says, "What do you say, kiddo? Would you like to play high notes like that?" And then the third one is the little kid saying to the professional, he says, "You're breathing incorrectly." which that got liked. It was I don't know what it's up to at this point, but it is hundreds. 400 likes and 58 shares. So we've all we've all dealt with somebody like that, and again, the day isn't long enough. So let's see. So other than a kid who's eager to get is eager to, I was going to say get involved. It's not a charity, but to get involved in their own education and to that is teachable. What in terms of actual playing skills do you most look for?
Well, I'm a big believer, just because I don't have a lot of natural gifts myself, that pretty much any of the fundamentals can be taught and learned.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very convenient if the student seems to have an easy time keeping a steady tempo, or has a clear understanding of rhythm, or has a wonderful sound. But I in my experience as a student and as a teacher, all that stuff can be taught. So really, I'm sorry if this answer is a little more ambiguous than people might want. What I'm looking for is someone that has actually looked ahead, and more than a week, because I get a lot of emails in December about, I'm auditioning in January, what should I do?
Sure.
And well, you should go back in time a year or two and start thinking about it then, and get a private teacher. So honestly, as far as playing is concerned, it's great to demonstrate great tone. It's great to demonstrate great fundamentals of time and rhythm and intonation. But more than anything, if you can simply demonstrate preparation, when I ask you, what have you and your private teacher talked about in the Haddad suite for tuba, if you don't have an answer for that, that's not as helpful as, well, we've covered X, Y, and Z, and here are the practice techniques. And so really that matters a lot more. Now, if your sound is just not great, and if your time is not great, that doesn't do you a lot of favors. But again, I don't care if you're playing Aaron Beret by Bach, or if you're playing the John Williams Tuba Concerto. If you're playing Aaron Beret and your sound and your time and your technique and your musicianship are all fantastic, and then the next person comes in and plays the John Williams Tuba Concerto, and their sound and their time and their technique and musicianship is just terrible, I'm actually more interested in the Aaron Beret person.
Right.
So you don't have to worry about the pieces being the hardest possible things. You just need to sound, I mean, they shouldn't be dumbed down, but they should be appropriate to your level, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. My short answer for that is, it's a lot less about what you play, and it's a lot more about how you play.
I see. Well, is there a thing that all of, or most, or many of the most successful students that you've had, is there something that they had in common coming through the door?
Yeah, I would say definitely motivation to improve and optimism that you can improve. And then looking back on the alumni I've had that have been most consequential, 99% of my students have been and probably will be music ed students. So it's those people that seem to light up excitement in others, those people that realize that music is a communicative art form, that teaching is a communicative art form. And I'm an introvert myself, but I had to learn to be an extrovert in order to be a professional musician and a professional teacher. So there's something about the motivation for self-improvement and engaging other people in what makes you happy that is going to carry you a really long way.
Yep. Mike Myers describes himself as a situational extrovert.
That's good. That's good. I like
that. That is good.
So here is a kind of a related question. Is there a thing that you wish every student knew walking into their audition? I don't mean like a piece of literature. I mean, I wish that this kid realized that blank.
Well, I just wish that they realized how palpable the relationship is between the studio teacher and a student. A lot of students come into a music program because they like being in bands, and they haven't thought too much about the future. They haven't thought too much about their own individual growth. And just, realizing how powerful and broad the education can be between a student and a private teacher, and how you're looking for a relationship of trust and support and communication, rather than just looking for the person that you show up to once a week and check it off and then you leave. So it's the students that really have that perspective of, this is the one professor that you're going to have a class with every semester throughout your entire college career. And there's a reason that all these music schools have created this as a central part of your experience. So really, do your homework, engage, and find out that this is the right relationship for both you as a student and the teacher as a teacher. Because it's a lot of students really don't realize how central lessons are to their experience as college students, and that awareness really would start the conversation off on a much more productive foot.
So, Lance,
how do you handle this? Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, how would you answer that same question?
I wish that they all understood that every person on the panel is rooting for them to play great. I see a lot of students come in and they're very nervous and they're very anxious and they think that their entire universe, well, I mean, it's a big step, but nobody is rooting against them. And I think they feel like if they miss a note that they're doomed and that it all rides on that. And everybody in the room is rooting for that person to be the best possible candidate.
That's so much better than my answer. Can I feel that? That's fantastic.
See, I asked you a question that I was hoping to have asked, so that's why I think that way.
I think we're about to lose our connection with Alex.
Well, you just see them coming in, and they're just terrified, some of them, and then they can't play well. They're all bound up, and you do your best to try and calm them down. I want to communicate to them that we want them to do well, and then the other thing I always test for in every audition is how well they take direction. I ask them, even if they play well, I ask them to do something differently and see how well they take that feedback and see what they do with it.
Yeah, no, that's exactly. It goes back to what we were talking about, the teachable student, and that's a skill that can be learned and cultivated. But it's amazing if they have it from the start, that you just know you're going to do great things.
And you know what's interesting is that in order to be teachable, and this was just mentioned a couple minutes ago too, is that you have to be aware of what you can do and what you can't do in order to be teachable. Because if you have no awareness of any blind spots in your playing or in your teaching, then you're not going to be teachable, because you don't need to be. I don't need anyone giving me walking lessons. I do that really well, so I can even walk backwards. So if someone were to come up to me and I'm don't mean to be showing off, but I'm really
like sometimes
I'm really good at that's true. So yeah, that's true. And sometimes sometimes like in Kufstein, Lance made it look like he was trying to walk in like 30-inch high heels and he was wearing tennis shoes, but. And that wasn't because
30 high heels, but that's a different story.
That wasn't because of the cobblestones either. So, but yeah, you have to be self-aware to be teachable. I was once heard Joe Alessi in a master class. He was asked why, what is it that. How do you win a professional audition was the question, which is obviously super open-ended. And he said that he really didn't like answering that question. And then he gave an incredible answer, which is why he gets asked that all the time. And he said that you have to be brutally honest with yourself about what you can and cannot do on the horn. Brutally honest and with specificity, like I can do this, but I can't do that if this factor is also involved, etc. And he talked about recording yourself and using a mirror and all of these things. And if someone is teachable and has the awareness to know what they need to be taught, then. Boy, that's like, we've all dealt with a student that has that combo, and they're a dream to teach, right? I mean, and not that every lesson is incredible. There are some that are average, some that are great, others that it's just not really firing right. But teaching, that young man or that young woman is a pleasure every single week. And then when you've got kids who kind of go through phases of being teachable, or you go through kids that are, phases of self-awareness, then that's when it gets hard.
Yeah, self-awareness is huge. And to piggyback off of that, I used to take a few times when I was an undergrad student in Virginia, I would drive up to Baltimore and get an occasional lesson with David Federley. And he had his reel-to-reel recording machine that could play back what you did at the speed you played it, at half the speed or at double the speed. And he would refer to that as his truth box. And I remember listening to myself play the Meister Singer at half speed, and every articulation was different. Every intonation was just all over the place. And it was this whole new level of awareness. But something, actually, if I can edit my answer to what I'm looking for in a student, I'm looking for someone who has started to explore what good actually is. Yeah. And, if you listen to a recording of yourself and you don't understand that your rhythm needs attention, or your intonation, or that you're not phrasing. It's because you've never listened to great artists. We're all grandchildren of Arnold Jacobs, and he would always talk about, how would Sinatra play this, how would Bud Herseth, how would Pavarotti play this, and that was just going on the assumption that all young, ambitious musicians were listening to great music all the time.
Yes.
And I think that has diminished. I think that now that everything is so easily accessible on the web, it has lost its value.
Right.
For a young student, I always ask the students in auditions, who's your favorite euphonium player? Who's your favorite tuba player? And there's no right answer to that, but you got to have an answer.
Right. If they were to answer me for their favorite euphonium player, then that would actually be a wrong answer. Not to correct you, but yeah.
You're my favorite player. You sound hilarious.
Exactly. If they say me, then immediately they get a scholarship. But
it's what's funny is if you were to ask, can you imagine if an 18, 19, 20-year-old is an aspiring writer, they want to be an author for a living, and you were to say, okay, who are your favorite authors? And then they said, I don't know. I
don't really read that much.
Yeah, never. That would never, why on earth would someone want to, and I bet you it would even be someone that would be in the corner of, obviously the title author is a huge, huge umbrella. There's all sorts of niches underneath that of course they would be able to tell you. Any kid who wants to be a professional basketball player or even a professional basketball coach or something like that, they can all tell you who their favorite players are. And I think you're right, the complete lack of scarcity of music. When I was at Northwestern, I taught lessons at a town up in Libertyville for a little over a year. And every single time that I would cash those checks, I would take all that money and I would have to take 2 different trains down to Chicago, to the north side of Chicago, and then I would have about a 3/4 of a mile walk from the train to Tower Records, and I would dump all of that money into Tower Records, and I would then walk the 3/4 of a mile back to the train to get to another train and so of course I listened intensely to all those recordings because I was buying Led Zeppelin, and I was buying the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and I was buying Mahler, and I was buying Mozart. It was a little, and Coltrane. Everything. But I think the complete lack of scarcity is just kind of taken for granted. And how many times have any of us asked a kid, that they're playing, they're playing the Effie Suite, and you ask them, okay, what recordings have you listened? Have you heard any recordings? And they say, yep. And then you say, okay, which one? And then you go, I don't know. It was on YouTube. And then you do a little digging, and it turns out that it was some, high school junior who's really good, but a high school junior in their basement in, in South Central Iowa, and it's like, okay, she's probably really good, but why, how about Bobo? How about, or how about some incredible grad student at Eastman or, something like that. And be able to articulate exactly who was on the recording. And if you're talking about orchestral music, know who the band, who the orchestra is, who the conductor is, what year it is, so that you can start to figure out who the players are, and you can start to get just more educated about all of that stuff. So I think that we did that at our back in the day, but that was out of necessity because you couldn't just buy every recording of Mahler 1 and figure out, okay, this conductor actually sucks at conducting Mahler. Your money would only work once. So it's interesting times in that regard.
Well, heck, in my day there was the euphonium record, and I listened to the Leonard Falcone and his baritone record until I wore it out.
Right.
Then I found out that Brian Bowman made one, and who's this guy? And so it was just, you just listen to that thing over and over and over again.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a really steady. Gene Picorni's Excerpt CD came out when I was an undergrad student, and I just remember everybody was studying every millimeter of that recording, and you had this the sense of obligation to understand what he did and why he did it, and hear every single word he said, to the point where the first time I met him and I heard his voice, and it's the voice in the recording, was like hearing the voice of God. It scared the heck out of me. But yeah, it's that sense that you just really want to understand what excellence is that really sets a lot of people apart.
It's It's not rocket science. It's we're sitting in the panel. We're listening. How good is your time? How good is your tone? How good are you? How able are you to play with a variety of dynamic ranges? How accurate are you? How good is your articulation? If you don't know your scales inside and out, that's just silly. It's like you're walking into the SATs and they've given you the whole first page, and you can memorize the first page of the SATs. You could go in if you know your 12 major scales. If you only knew your major scales in even one octave, and you could just rip them off, you're going to knock the socks off of the vast majority of the folks that are listening to you. And it's like there's just no surprises here. It's just that stuff.
One of my most popular blog posts ever was called the give a blank test, and it was just about scales, and it was about how if you know your scales, then it shows that you give a crap, and if you don't know your scales, it shows that you don't give a crap, and it's like it's binary. I mean, it's like you can't kind of give a crap. All it is homework. That's it. And self-awareness and recognizing that and all scales are not equally easy. I mean, like the fingerings on a B major scale on a B flat tuba are obviously more difficult than a B flat scale, but it's not like, I mean, there's 3, 4, or 5 valves. It ain't that hard here. You know, this is not like you can't reach the pedals. I mean, it's like it's easy. You just have to spend the time and have the awareness of spending time hanging out in the quote unquote non-band keys, you know, like where the strings hang out all the time. If you do it, then you've shown your potential professor a lot. And if you haven't, you've shown us even more. So,
I make the point at least once a week that in a lesson that at one point in that student's life, tying their shoes was bewilderingly difficult.
Right.
And probably that morning they didn't have to think too much about tying their shoes, and that's preparation.
Yeah, there you go. There you
and
go.
Then you look for the kid with loafers and see if there's some correlation there.
I don't think Lance could have tied his shoes in Kufstein, but that again, that's another.
I tied them to each other.
No, it looked like they were tied together, but in fact they weren't. Oh goodness, we're just lucky that Lance is still around. So, yeah. So
his advanced stage, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Hey man, I just got I got invited to join AARP. And my son is hilarious. He's 14. I showed him. He's like, "What is that?" And I said, "It's for old farts." And he said, "Well, you're only like 47, right?" And I was like, "No, 48." No. Oh.
Oh, and at that point he hugged you like really hard.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you have a will filled out, Dad?
So speaking of being on the back nine, I'm sure that you are familiar with our dear friend Jens Lindemann, Alex.
Yeah. I've been reading a lot about his troubles. It's just it's awful.
Yeah. So, wondering if a great pedagogue like you might be able to give us some insights into what Jens might be able to do to help him through these chop problems in this really desperate time for him.
Absolutely, I will. My advice always whenever you're getting chop problems is to play through it. And if at all possible, just try to play as loudly as you possibly can, without any warm up whatsoever. You gotta like shock your chops back into working. And if it doesn't work at first, then push harder. That's really critically important. It's like the old Tennessee football coach said, winners never quit and quitters never win. So just really keep at it.
And then at what point do you have them put a mouthpiece in the horn? Because that's just all on the lead pipe, right?
Put a what?
Oh, that's right. Never mind.
Oh, that not yeah. No, he's going to be fine. He's.
Are you sure?
He's a talented. Well, no, but you just say these things, and honestly, I think that if you just rub some dirt on it, he's going to be fine. And in the meantime, you can always play saxophone. I mean, it's just not that hard. So.
There you go. How about that, man?
Boy, if any saxophone players had ever listened to this podcast, they would be feeling the sick burn right now. Yeah.
I don't think we have to worry about that.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I'm still reeling from the fact that the guest right before you, Mark Jenkins, suggested that Jens start taking hard drugs.
Yeah.
He reiterated hard drugs. Yeah, it was like, that was pretty funny. Yeah, I know.
Of course, for Mark, that's like Dayquil.
Yeah.
So we're grading on a curve there.
Going all the way up to the prescribed amount of Dayquil. Yeah, that's Mark getting crazy. So, well, cool. Well, thank you very much for your student. That was really funny. He was we got him. That was great, man.
Yeah.
He got you. You got him.
Set the world on fire.
You what?
It's fantastic. He's going to set the world on fire, and thanks for giving him a little spotlight.
That was
for sure. Well, let's find a time to get together down there.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, we'll make it happen. Love
Perfect.
to have you guys. Big fan of the show.
All right. Well, thank you to Tony for his academic insubordination. Thank you to Alex and Lance. Thank you. Thank you.
No.
I mean it. I mean it. Thank you.
No, thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm the lucky one in this relationship.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I podcast married up. And on that awkward note, that does it for another episode of The Brass Junkies. You've been listening to The Brass Junkies on the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network. If you would like to help support the podcast in order to make more episodes like this one possible, please visit pedalnotemedia.com/donate for more details. Also, be sure to check out our latest recording, The Brass Recording Project, at brassrecordingproject.com. The Brass Junkies is produced by Joey Santillo. Executive producers are Andrew Hitz and Lance LaDuke. This has been a presentation of the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network.